Stop scrolling. A highly coordinated machine just pulled off a hostile takeover of America's biggest city, and nobody saw it coming. Look at this. Wait, did you catch that? Listen to the chant going on in the background here. This isn't just some random street rally. This is the official victory party for the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City, and they are literally shouting down the sitting leadership of the mainstream Democrat Party. Look at the energy in that room. It's totally shifted from traditional campaigning to raw, hostile takeover tactics. Most people think local elections are just about boring zoning laws or filling potholes, but what you're seeing right here is a highly coordinated machine flexing its muscle. They just wiped out powerful, multi-term incumbents who had all the establishment money behind them. And the scariest part? The establishment didn't even see it coming. They let this faction grow inside their own ranks, thinking they could control them or use their ground game to win general elections. Now, the people who were supposed to be the foot soldiers are taking the steering wheel. Pay close attention to how they operate, because they aren't stopping at the city level. This is the blueprint for a complete political replacement, and they are explicitly telling everyone who's next on the chopping block. Hold on, look at the sheer scale of what's happening in these campus squares. You might brush this off as just college kids blowing off steam, but you'd be dead wrong. This is literally step one of the pipeline. They aren't just holding up signs, they are actively recruiting and radicalizing the next wave of political candidates under the guise of student justice groups. Notice how organized the blockades and chants are? That's not accidental. That is tactical training. The people leading these specific campus uprisings are being watched, evaluated, and eventually hand-picked to run for actual political office. It completely changes how you view these protests, right? They are using our universities as boot camps to test who has the nerve to disrupt the system. Once they prove they can organize a mob and shut down a campus building, they get tapped on the shoulder and handed a campaign manager. It's a highly sophisticated talent incubator hiding in plain sight. If you thought the chaos stayed on campus after graduation, you need to wake up, because these exact same agitators are the ones now writing the laws in major cities.
Blockade staged for arrest.
Getting arrested organizing the people I've organized with for over a decade. We just occupied Hochul's office.
Radical act.
Did you hear what she just admitted with a smile on her face? She's casually talking about occupying the governor's office and getting arrested like it's a shiny badge of honor to put on a resume. Because for them, it absolutely is. Look at the confidence. In normal politics, a criminal record or an arrest for trespassing would completely tank your campaign. But in this specific ecosystem, it's literally the prerequisite for the job. They want people who have proven they are willing to break the law to get what they want. It shows total loyalty to the movement over the actual legal system. Notice how she mentions organizing with these exact same people for over a decade? This is a tight-knit, deeply entrenched network. They spend years operating outside the law, building extreme solidarity before they even think about running for a legitimate seat. It's terrifyingly effective because they don't care about bad press. The establishment tries to debate them on policy, but you can't debate someone who is fundamentally trying to dismantle the room you're sitting in. They view the legal system as just another obstacle to overrun.
We knew that they were not just victories for one elected office. They were victories of a movement.
10 politicians are now running for office in New York on the Democratic Socialists of America slate, including 2 candidates for Congress.
We're going to make sure that we are undeniable.
Take a second and really listen to the framing here. She didn't say this was a victory for her district or for her local voters. She called it the victory of a movement, declaring they are an undeniable force across the entire country. That is a massive distinction. You have to understand the psychology at play. Traditional politicians run to represent their specific zip code, but these candidates are explicitly telling you they don't care about local boundaries. They view local seats simply as stepping stones to build a national factory of radicalism. Look at how coordinated the messaging is. They all use the exact same buzzwords, the exact same tone, and the exact same militant framing. It's franchise politics. They figure out the formula in a place like New York. perfect the ground game, and then copy-paste it into every vulnerable district in the country. If you live in a quiet suburb in the Midwest and think this doesn't affect you, you are severely underestimating their ambition. They are openly telling you their goal is to make this machine undeniable everywhere. They are playing a completely different game.
And if we truly believe in a system where we don't have double jeopardy on the basis of where someone was born, then we cannot also have a system of punishment that is unique to people who were born elsewhere. We need to make sure that if we really value equality in this country, that we are treating people equally, regardless of where they were born. It cannot both be that a person who...
Pause right there. Let her logic really sink in for a second. She is openly arguing on a public radio broadcast that violent criminals who are in the country illegally should not be deported because that would be, quote-unquote, double jeopardy compared to citizens. This isn't a fringe tweet. This is a mainstream radio interview by someone who just won a major congressional primary. Look at how calmly she completely redefines the concept of equal rights to protect convicted felons from deportation. It is a stunning manipulation of language. They take universally loved concepts like equality and twist them to justify entirely abolishing immigration enforcement. And what's crazy is how the interviewer just lets it slide. This is how the Overton window shifts in real time. They say something absolutely radical with a straight face over and over until the establishment just accepts it as a normal political position. She is telling you point blank that citizenship should mean absolutely nothing when it comes to the consequences of committing a violent crime. If she gets to Washington, this is the exact ideology she will force into federal law.
As a shared project of our Broward DSA and of the larger Democratic Socialists of America, this is who I'm accountable to our members, not just here in South Florida, but 100,000 members plus nationwide.
We must make sure that they remember they are a member of this organization and this.
Look closely at what he's doing here. He is looking right into the camera and pledging his absolute loyalty, not to the people who voted for him, not to the Constitution, but strictly to the 100,000 members of the DSA nationwide. Have you ever seen a politician so openly admit that their strings are being pulled by an outside organization? He says his campaign is a shared project. That means he isn't making the decisions. The machine is making the decisions. When a bill comes across his desk, he isn't going to ask what his constituents need. He's going to ask what the headquarters wants. It completely subverts the entire idea of representative democracy. They operate like a shadow government that just happens to be using the ballot line as a Trojan horse. Notice the complete lack of fear in his voice. They used to hide these extreme affiliations, but now they are wearing them proudly because they know the old guard is too weak to stop them. You are watching the hostile takeover of a major political party broadcast in high definition.
And for those
Check out the visual shift happening here. We are looking at the literal changing of the guard. The guy who just got crushed wasn't some nobody. He was the golden child of the establishment, backed by all the legacy money and institutional power you could possibly imagine. And he was completely wiped out by a grassroots network that simply outworked him on the streets. Look at the absolute shock that must be rippling through the old-school political donors right now. They dumped millions into saving these seats, and it didn't even make a dent. It proves that all the television ads in the world cannot beat a hyper-motivated, mobilized base that is willing to knock on every single door. What you are seeing is the realization that money no longer controls the outcome in these deep blue districts. Ideology does. The establishment completely lost their grip on the steering wheel, and these new candidates are rushing in to fill the vacuum. The sheer panic in the war rooms of these legacy politicians must be deafening, because they finally realize they have zero counter strategy. Wait, freeze the frame on these social media posts for a second. You really need to read what is written here. We aren't talking about a politician with a slightly different tax policy. This is someone who just secured a massive victory, publicly bragging about wiping their hands on the American flag and calling the entire country a disgrace. Just look at the absolute disdain dripping from these words. In any previous era of American history, a digital footprint like this would be political suicide. You wouldn't even be able to run for local office. But today, this exact level of anti-American hostility is what actually wins the primary. It is the core feature, not a bug. They have realized that the more radical and offensive they act toward traditional symbols, the more money and support they drain from the extreme base. It completely shatters the illusion that these are just well-meaning progressives who want better healthcare. They are openly telegraphing their absolute hatred for the foundation of the country, and the system just handed them the keys to the kingdom anyway.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States, that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens? It's not possible to vote for people.
Did you catch the massive ripple effect happening right here? Even the biggest voices on the completely opposite side of the political spectrum are throwing their hands up and abandoning their own partyships. When you see lifelong loyalists completely detaching from their establishment, you know the entire system is fracturing. Notice how the frustration isn't even about policy anymore. It's about a complete lack of loyalty to the citizens themselves. People are watching this radical machine take over city by city, and they are looking at their own legacy leaders and realizing nobody is coming to save them. The establishment is so weak and compromised that they can't even defend their own ranks, let alone stop a highly coordinated takeover. It creates this massive vacuum of leadership. When voters feel completely abandoned by the people who are supposed to protect the republic, the door swings wide open for absolute chaos. This isn't just a local issue anymore. It is a total collapse of faith in the traditional two-party system, and it is happening right in front of our eyes. If you want to know exactly what they're planning to do next, make sure you hit subscribe. I'll be tracking every move.